Well, first of all, I think there is a clear threat from Iran in terms of that country's attempt to acquire nuclear weapons. I think that would be very bad for the region, very bad for the world, and I think it's right that all countries across the world step up the pressure on Iran to take a different path, and Britain has been leading the way in that regard within the European Union, arguing for sanctions, for travel bans, for asset freezes, and we are now looking at this whole issue of having an embargo on Iranian oil to get that regime to think again. It can take a different path and stop destabilizing the region, stop the march towards a nuclear weapon. But it needs to change direction. In terms of the Straits of Hormuz, it is in the interests of the whole world that those straits are open, and I'm sure if there was any threat to close them, the whole world would come together and make sure they stayed open. My view, our view in the United Kingdom, is that President Assad has lost the consent of his people. And that is not surprising when you see the appalling brutality that has been meted out by elements of the armed forces in Syria against ordinary civilians and people who are protesting. I think it is appalling what's happened. To me, one of the key points of what is happening in what I call the Arab Spring is that leaders have to show they have the consent of their people, that they're offering people a job and a voice, that they're in tune with what their countries want. And President Assad is not doing that. Again, I think Britain has played quite a leading role. I pay huge tribute to the Arab League, which has played the leading role in bringing this issue to the world's attention. The Arab League is leading the way. The Arab League is showing the United Nations, in my view, what needs to be done. And we stand ready as a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council to take fresh resolutions to that council based on what the Arab League is doing and what the Arab League is saying, and daring others, if they want to veto those resolutions, to try and explain why they're willing to stand by and watch such appalling bloodshed by someone who has turned into such an appalling dictator. Well, clearly it's been discussed at the United Nations Security Council, but we've been unable to make progress, frankly, because there have been some countries on the Security Council that have vetoed or threatened to veto proper resolutions on Syria, and a particular case with Russia, and I would urge Russians, the Russian government, even at this late stage, to look really carefully at why it is proposing to do what it keeps doing with respect to Syria. This is appalling bloodshed, appalling murder on the streets of Syria. I think the whole Arab League has come together and said that what is happening is unacceptable. And I think other countries need to listen to that and act on that, including at the United Nations. Britain stands ready to do that. France stands ready to do that. I'm sure America does too. But the other permanent members need to do the same.